Hey everyone, welcome to week 5. What are we doing this week? We are doing social and environmental justice. So let's do a quick review of last week. I do want to note there, I hope you're watching these food for thought videos and so forth. There's some really important ones this week. So if you've ever heard the word redlining, you may have heard it tossed around. This is a really good explanation of what it is. Some really interesting stuff about the criminal justice system if you're interested in that sort of thing, which we all should be really. And then some wealth disparity. So, first, just a quick review of last week. If you recall, just go back to the folder here. The main topic here was the steady state economy, um, and what that means, right? So it's a critique of the traditional metrics that we use, which is primarily GDP, which, if you remember, is the goods and services, the finished goods and services sold within a country's border. Um, and so there's a lot of problems with GDP, which we'll actually get into more detail next week, week 6, when we look at our development and quality of life metrics. Um, but this is a really good, important foundation for that and a lot of other things we'll do this semester. So remember, the one of the problems are number one. Remember, there were 3 problems that he indicates in his talk. Number one was that and I'm paraphrasing because can't remember the exact wording, but basically that the environment is suffering the consequences of this permanent growth model, right? Number one, we looked at all these things like climate change, biodiversity loss, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, everything we look at this semester in some way, shape, or form has to do with this permanent growth model. The second thing is that in wealthy countries, that increased GDP is not improving overall quality of life, or we're not any happier. There are all kinds of data to back that up, but as I mentioned in class, our happiness in the United States peaked in the 1950s, and yet the economy has grown by leaps and bounds since then. But we are less happy actually than we were before. Now, there's obviously a lot that goes into that. We can talk about that if you'd like. It's something that we will address in later parts of the class. But the point is that if you look at the data, remember we looked at that chart in class, and the relationship between income and happiness, or what's HDI, which is a measure of quality of life, really. At a certain point, remember, after a certain point, more money does not overall provide more quality of life. So the data all say the same thing when you look at any of the statistics. So if those things are happening, the third one is that if you remember, growth is the historical exception. But the point is that if the environment is suffering, if people actually in wealthy countries aren't living better, and also not for nothing, but the growth is the historical exception. If that's what economic growth is bringing us, then why do we keep pursuing economic growth? And that's the whole premise. And so, since there are some issues with pursuing growth as an end goal, he proposes, and as does Herman Daly, they propose solutions to that. And so that's really important. You know, if you're going to point out what's wrong with something like the way we pursue things or like the goals of our economy, it's important to propose solutions. And so they all really propose the same basic set of solutions. But remember, steady state economy. Number one, and this is really important, super, super important. Instead of pursuing growth as our having growth be our goal should be let's maximize quality of life for as many people as possible. Because if you think about it, why do we pursue economic growth at an individual level, on a societal level? We pursue it because we rightfully, in many instances, believe that it will bring us things that make us happy, that give us a high quality of life. We can take our vacations, we can, we have food that we like to eat, we have the house that we like, we can get around, like whatever. So there's all kinds of things. We live in an economic society, so you need money for most of those things. But the point is, if we can get all of those things, and really what we're trying to pursue are those things, not money. Money is just a means to an end. But when we pursue economic growth, growth for the sake of growth, what we're actually pursuing is growth. And we just hope that it's going to provide all those other things, which it clearly is not overall. Don't get me wrong. Economic growth has helped a lot of people. We could probably all use a little more money in our pockets, but there is a certain point after which it's doing, if not more harm than good, it's doing a lot of harm, and we could reconfigure it so it's doing way more good than harm. That's the goal. And Herman Daly talked about the same thing, which we'll get to in a minute. But then we remember there's a short video from William Rees where he just said that nature is invisible to the economy, so nature has no inherent value in the economy. And so what happens is to grow, in order to grow the economy, you do those two main things, right? Those two main things. You pull resources from the environment, you dump your waste. And so that's a really big problem. And those two things, pulling resources from the environment excessively, in and of itself doesn't impact the environment at all. And that's a problem. Now, when things become scarce, that does. But the point is, like, inherently, on its own, we can ravage the environment as long as it's not impacting the economy in some way directly. Then it's good. If it's positively impacting the economy, it's good. And then we ended up with Herman Daly and its impossible growth, or the possibility theorem, which he calls sustainable growth. And so, if you remember, there was a couple of really important points here. Number one, we cannot grow forever on a finite planet, right? That's number one. Number two, um, the economy is a subset of the environment and not the other way around. So it's not just a place to pull resources from and dump waste into. It's actually envelops the entire economy, and then we need to be consider the fact that as the economy grows, it takes up more and more of those resources, and that's a problem. And so those are basically the two main points. The third one, I guess you could say, is right along those, and that is that uh, what we really should be doing with uh, any growth that we do should be used to address poverty, because people in poverty do need resources to have a higher quality of life, and that's what we should be focusing our growth. Any growth that we do should be focused on that. And again, he proposes a bunch of solutions that are almost entirely policy based, all of it keeping in mind that we need to, number one, not pull resources, use resources any faster than can be renewed. Number two, don't dump waste into the environment faster than they can be safely assimilated. So these themes you're going to see over and over again, those two primary goals, and there's just a bunch of different aspects to addressing that. And so he proposes a lot of those solutions and then some more specific things like tax extraction and use it to fund renewable resources and so forth. All right, so that's the 30,000 foot view of last week. And then so this week it's a little bit of a change. It's not quite as economically focused as the last couple of weeks. So I'll just kind of go down here and give you a quick overview. Um, talk about that. So social and environmental justice. First of all, we need to define the terms. And social justice, as you can see here, there's a lot of definitions. It's just like sustainability. There's no one definition. But the one that I think is a really good, it really encompasses in a pretty thorough way the goals of social justice. And so the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, social rights and opportunities. So this is a really important sentence to think about. This is something we have already addressed when we talked about equity. So social justice is basically equity. It's the same thing. And so really key words in here. There's all of them are really important, but two that it's really essential to focus on. It's all about rights and opportunities. It is not about everyone having everything be the same for them, equal income, whatever. Everyone has the same, you name it, house, food, etc. This is not communism. That doesn't work. The idea behind social justice and the fact that this is controversial is really kind of silly if you think about it. And here's why. What could be more American, what could be more American than pursuing uh, opportunity? That this is supposedly the land of the opportunity. And there are a lot of really opportunities here. There is some social mobility, although it's not as high as a lot of other places. But that's like kind of our main ethos, allegedly, I mean, that's what we can all pretty much agree on, I think. I don't think that's a partisan political issue, is that we should be a land of opportunity. And that's really all it is. We're also a land of rights because, we have the Bill of Rights, for example. That is a document that both sides, all Americans really that care about the rule of law point to that as a really essential part of being an American citizen and what makes America special. And it does make, I mean, America, we do have, or the United States, we do have some, our Constitution is just an absolutely revolutionary document. It's amazing that they laid it out. We could dig into some details here that they did not actually mean it to be like, they knew that societies change and that it has to be a little bit flexible. But regardless, we have this Bill of Rights that is, everyone loves the fact that we have this Bill of Rights. If we point to that as something that's really essentially American. And the land of opportunity, I mean, that's something you hear all the time. And so that's what social justice is. It's really just people need to have equal rights and to the extent possible, equal opportunity. And after that, then you can say, all right, if you have opportunity and you don't work as hard as another person, then you're not going to have as much of whatever you're pursuing, right? I mean, it's not a fair world. It's not an equal world. It never will be. You realize that. So that's really important to remember. And then the three sort of, I guess you could say, sectors of rights and opportunities that we'll look at are economic, political, and social. I'm not going to go over this in a whole lot of detail because that's the point of all the content. I just really wanted to highlight that definition. But we'll go over the difference between economic rights and opportunities, political rights and opportunities, and social rights and opportunities. But that's gives you a pretty thorough understanding of what social justice is. Um, and then we get into environmental justice. Um, and environmental justice, there again, many ways to define this, but the way I like to think of it as, and I think this is in this video, is that everyone deserves to share equally in the burdens and the benefits of environmental burdens and benefits, regardless of their race, gender, income, ethnicity, etc. Okay, so we should all share equally in the benefits and burdens, environmental benefits and burdens, right? So we think about things like clean air and clean water. Those are environmental benefits. We should all have clean air and clean water, regardless of who we are, where we live, etc. And then the burdens would be things like the sort of flip side of that, pollution, landfills, resource extraction, whatever the case may be. So all of those benefits and environmental burdens should be equally shared. Now, we should be all be equal in this regard. We should not have, there should not be a difference here. Now, there's going to be some slight differences, but that's what environmental justice really means. And then we'll go over a couple of case studies. One was actually up the road in Camden, Jersey. This is one in India. So this is absolutely an international and also a domestic issue. Then we'll go over this article. This is also Garrett Hardin, if you remember. He's the one that wrote The Tragedy of the Commons. So this is a slightly different tenor. And I'll just let you read it and see what you think, and then we'll discuss it in class. Make sure you read this and watch the video because this is a pretty thought-provoking article. And then we'll end with something called neocolonialism. I'm sure you're familiar with the term colonialism. That's the old school, you actually take over a country politically, economically, etc. Like this is our country. Um, we all know what that means. So neocolonialism is the idea, and this is a fairly controversial topic. Some people say this doesn't really exist, but really the difference between colonialism, neocolonialism, neo meaning new, right? Neo-colonialism. It's this idea that countries that even though they're not technically taken over or ruled by another country, they're dominated in one or more ways. Pretty much always involves political and economic, right? So if you have a country who is technically independent, but the the economy just so heavily depends on what one other country does. So this happens a lot in African countries where they have some really great resources, not the best governing systems for a lot of them, not all of them. And so you have a country that comes in and says, "Hey, I have this whole bunch of money. I'm going to pay you money. I want to take all these really nice resources that you have, really great farmland, all these precious metals, diamonds, cobalt, all the stuff that modern technology is made of." So you have another country that if they don't they don't actually tell a country what to do, but if they want something done, it'll get done. And they have there's all these common techniques where they will pay local leaders or business leaders or political leaders a lot of money, provide them resources, give them sweetheart deals, whatever, to help them sort of help or force the people that they're managing or the people in their, whoever they have control or partial control over to get them to do what this other country wants. And so this happens a lot. I mean, that's not controversial. I mean, that certainly happens. But whether or not it's neocolonialism is the part that some people might have a problem with. But we'll go over it a couple of examples here. So what it is, and then Ethiopia, there's an example there. So this is something that is an important social justice issue, which is why it's here, because it's always a more powerful, economically, politically powerful country that does this to a less powerful country, just like colonialism. Okay, so that's the review and the overview of the topics this week. So this is the last topic that will be on the exam week 6. All right, so make sure you're reading the content and everything beforehand. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know. But I look forward to speaking with you about this when I see you in class on Wednesday. All right, have a great week.